Hey everyone, welcome back to BetSports Golf. Here with my friend Andy Molitor to unpack the 2023 RBC Heritage. How we doing, my friend?
Good. It was fun. Surprising. We got the entire Masters in 4 days. Which once we knew where round 3 ended, it's like, all right, this is happening tonight. I don't have to carve out any time tomorrow to watch golf, which is good because Mondays are busy. And I just want to get after it. And I don't want this affected. This is a great course. This is low key, kind of a cool one. Like the Masters has obviously the most cool, I don't know, idiosyncrasies and little traditions. The Champions Dinner's so big, and getting all these crystal vases for hole-in-ones and eagles and shit. Obviously the pomp circumstance tradition is high around this, but this is a cool one too. And not even being a super old tournament, but the guy who won last year hits his tee shot into the ocean to start the week of festivities while they fire a cannon.
Yeah.
Go look that up. It's a weird thing, but it's awesome. The green jacket's cool, but this one's a tartan jacket if you win. So you'll see the winner, posing with the trophy afterwards if you stick around on Sunday. It'll be like a 38 slim if it's JT, but this tiny little tartan jacket on him and holding the trophy. It's pretty cool. And then obviously the vistas of the water and the lighthouse, the fact that it's almost like 2 different courses. You have the inland parkland part of it. And then once you get out, especially I think it's 16, 17, 18 are just all kind of around this bay. You're hitting over some water on that par 3. It's one of my favorite events that, used to be and we're going to bet on this guy because guess what? The postman is one of the 5 best players here. And it's not the same this year. It is maybe some people are having a little bit of negative about this. Oh, it sucks. These guys that just played the Masters can't take a week off. Fuck, they can't. Rory did.
Yeah, we just had that where we had 4 out of 5 weeks. So it's not like we haven't had, I know it's been a run of 7 out of the last 10. It's been a lot for sure, but I don't know, you had a little bit of run off where you had the Valero, you had match play, you had Valspar. So they weren't all playing. And if you didn't do really well in the match play, you've had some time off here a little bit to get ready. So yeah, it is a great course. It's a great venue. I made a couple trips the last couple of late winners down to South Carolina to play some golf here. Couldn't rally the crew to get to Harbour Town last year. Maybe we'll circle back and do that again, but definitely a unique little golf haven in the States, and recommend that to anyone in South Carolina. So let's talk Masters before we jump into Harbour Town and unpacking all that. Any takeaways? Great for Rahm. We were kind of all circling the top of the board, didn't really know where to go. And looks like even though he 4-putts the first hole to start, felt like he just kind of crushed from there. Jon Rahm played terrific golf. You can make all the jokes about, Brooks not being prepared for holes 55 to 72. He hasn't really taken those reps as of late. And great stuff from Phil. Kind of just a wild event, all things considered. I'm just, as you mentioned, stunned we got in. But no takeaways from the Masters or your favorite parts?
Yeah, and it was, Phil was a bit of a surprise. I had no idea what to make of him. He looked like a gaunt. He looked, it was like the end of Philadelphia, man. You look bad, Tom Hanks. It's are you I hate to even make that comparison because it honestly could just be him working out, eating better. And he just looks, because he's, I shouldn't talk. I'm a little pudgier than I used to be, but Phil got a little thicker and now he just looks skinnier now that he's, I don't know, maybe just drinking more of his coffee, doing a little bit of Phil fast. So I didn't, that was the biggest surprise to me. Reed playing well wasn't surprising. He's played well already this year on good events, good fields over on DP. He's a good enough golfer. And I think we learned you can't really take a lot of the live results and use them for anything, because we're finding out that a lot of these deals where, hey, if you win this tournament, it's just coming out of the giant check you already won. So you don't have a lot of motivation unless you really want the Live Singapore trophy. The motivation is kind of weird. And we did see it last week. You said maybe there is motivation because it's a lead up, it's a run up to a major.
and you see Brooks go down to Orlando and play this awful Muni and just, kind of crush it, play really, really well. He's fighting injuries last year when he ended up doing the switch, when he had the full swing shit, when he was looking like like a super depressed dude hanging out in a 6,000 square foot closet with his wife talking to cameras. Like, he did parlay that into a really good performance. It's tough. It's a tough course. It's tough playing with Rambo down the stretch. Like, it's a big ask to hold a 72 shot lead, or 72 hole lead like that. So I don't blame him for, tailing off a little in the final round. It's tough. He hasn't played a lot of competitive golf of late. I wonder what we're going to see, eventually. And there's a fun tweet I saw too, where he is like 14th in the OWGR for the Americans, which like top 12, I think is, hey, that's your Ryder Cup team or something like that. So I would love to see him kind of crush all 4 majors and end up on a Ryder Cup. I don't know how that would work, how the captain would treat it, but that's his life. And I was pumped to see him play well again. I like good golfers playing good golf. I was pumped to see Reed play well. Obviously I hate Rory, so it was fine watching him absolutely struggle. Nobody was taking real stakes on it, so I didn't post it, but I did have a little wager on Rory to miss the cut. So that was kind of a fun sweat.
It's an on-brand bet.
When he was like, when he was doing a little bit of trying to come back and find his way to like 2-3 over, I'm like, God, don't do this to me. I kind of want this one. So nice to see him play like shit. And then Ram, this is I don't know. Are we having the conversation? Is this a Spanish course? It's your 4th Spaniard.
Yeah.
The only European now to have won the Masters and the US Open. And I just think it's like, fuck, he's just really, really good. So such is life. Good to see him put another exclamation point on things. And I wish it would have been closer at the end. I wish we would have had some drama on the back nine. Really wasn't there, but it was still overall a good tournament to watch.
Yeah, it felt like it was going to be a 2-man race, everyone pulling away. It did kind of come back to the pack a little bit. Some guys emerged and took advantage of, opportunistic weather waves and things of that nature. But yeah, it did feel a little bit of a letdown at the end where, Brooks had kind of, collapsed isn't fair, but came back to the pack a little bit. And yeah, a couple months ago, Rahm felt inevitable, winning almost every time he teed it up. And then just kind of became the third of the big 3 heading into the event with, Scotty's form, winning the Players, defending it, all of the Rory stuff, which makes sense. Like we talked about it last week. I know you're a full fade on Rory pretty much any time. I thought still we're dealing with all the off the field, off the course stuff with Rory. And I think that's still playing itself out. I think he's, and that's him championing some of this stuff and the way he's gone about carrying the water for the PGA Tour. I know has not endeared himself to people like yourself that are maybe predisposed to not like Rory anyway. So yeah, I look forward to maybe a chance where he can clear his mind and get himself back into it. But yeah, the Patty Reed stuff, not surprised. The Phil was stunning because Phil's played 8 events on Live, has not finished inside the top 25. Those are 48-man fields. So like, stunning for him to come out and really play the way he played. That Jordan and Phil group on Sunday was electric. I think
they were like, somebody posted that
like a 58.
If they were a best ball team, yeah, they were like 14 under at one point or something. No, that it was Jordan made sense playing well. Hovland playing well was good to see for the future. And Phil, I guess Phil, maybe it comes down to the thing we harped on, everybody, the whole golf industry harped on, like experience matters here. Knowing your way around matters. I read some really good quotes. I would love everybody in the world to subscribe to my newsletter, but I read like 4 other golf newsletters, and there are a couple of pretty decent golf newsletters. One of my favorite is Jeff Shackelford's The Quadrilateral, and it was basically a all Rahm, kind of a newsletter the other day, I think, when it came out. And there were some really good quotes about how Rahm was able to approach playing and trying to, I think he really felt coming in like, I can do it this year. I'm at a level where I can beat everybody here. I just need to figure out a few things. He played with Finau. He asked him a bunch of questions about his final round with Tiger and Molinari, trying to figure out 12. He had some really good quotes about like his tactical approaches to
playing 12, playing with the lead, playing, some of these tougher holes late, scoring on the easier holes. Like, he just kind of went in with a really smart plan, and obviously has the golf game to execute. So he's the best player in the world right now. I won't fade Rory everywhere, but until further notice, his brain is broken here. And that was going to be the narrative that I missed, was if Brooks could have held on, like, oh my God, is a live guy going to get his career Grand Slam before Rory finishes his now?
Yeah.
Like, that would have been, oh my God, that would have been electric today. But no, overall, a lot of fun. Matchups went pretty well. Obviously didn't have Rahm in the outrights. That'd have been nice. But a lot of my outrights did halfway decent. They all made the cut, which isn't saying a lot here, but had a couple make some runs, just couldn't quite get there. Hopefully we can find something here at Harbour Town, which I don't know. You want to kind of talk about the field here, the difference, and I mean, just where your head goes, first of all, thinking about, I've handicapped Harbour Town for years and years.
Yeah.
We do this every year, but now it's an elevated event. We've done this a couple times this year where it's like, it's not the same. The same things are going to matter, but the level of golfer has gone up by like a lot at this point.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And I think the one thing, well, a few thoughts around that. So first is the elevated event piece. And we're seeing some of these, guys, the full fields that we don't typically see at all these tracks. The one thing that's unique, and it's a Pete Dye staple, this is a Pete Dye design, is that his designs bring more people into the fold. It is very much positional golf. This place actually has the shortest average drive on tour. They have the second smallest greens on tour as well. You have to really play station to station. You can even find the fairway here, and if you're on the wrong side of it, you could have a obstructed shot into the green because you have these palmettos and these oaks and pines that hang over. So like even fairway driving accuracy on the surface isn't necessarily just going to get it done. When you have looked at the leaderboards in seasons past, those are the guys that typically fare well. We don't typically see a lot of places where a Tyler Duncan is going to finish pretty consistently inside the top 20. So you have to be able to paint fairways. What I've heard referenced here is a few times is the 2020 version, which was the second event outside of the COVID return. Everyone was looking to get back, and that was a field that I think resembles the full field event that we have here this week more so than others. What's really important in that, and kind of extrapolating anything out of the 2021, was in June. And this place is Bermuda grass on the greens and in the fairways, and Bermuda is in bloom in June. It's not currently, typically in April. We are dealing with some overseed rye in the fairways. We have POA on the greens. So just grabbing, kind of looking at the leaderboard from that event and trying to think, hey, this is a full field event similar. The field is the same. I think it's a little bit noisy. And again, it's literally a 4-round sample, the one event. And then also because we do basically have different playing surfaces. So it does kind of throw things a little bit, in the blender there, a little bit, not like a straight correlation. So those things are still going to matter. You're still going to have to find fairways. You're going to land with a lot of 150 to 200 approaches. Your guys are going to be playing from the same spot because just the forced layups, the dog legs, and all the things that happen here. So you mentioned too, it plays very different. You have, Parkland style, you have the coastal elements in the back. So, this is a short par 71. So you have, again, the mitigated length off the tee, and that one less par 5 kind of brings a lot of those other guys into the fold here. So again, like the cream is going to rise to the top. And I think a lot of times in these elevated events, we do have the one outlier where Kurt Kitayama went and won at Bay Hill, but that fits Kitayama's game. Whereas this brings a lot of these other guys into play. So it's definitely a spot where I wouldn't be surprised to see someone a little further down the board win. Now, again, like we haven't had loaded fields last year. I think it was 25 out of the top 50 were here. Jordan Spieth won. But like 4 out of the last 6 years, we've had a guy win that opened 80 or longer. So like we've seen long shots win here too. So kind of throwing a little bit out of the 2020 where Webb went like nuclear at 22. We typically see like last year, we get the coastal stuff kick up. We get those wins. You're pretty much hanging around 13, 14 to win here. So that one feels like an outlier more so than one I would lean on because of the field strength. I'm kind of tossing it out a little bit more based off of when it was played and how the weather was that week too.
I'm definitely looking further down the board, and just, real quick, the course attributes, like you said, par 71, not terribly long, but just, it's a Pete Dry track. Like you said, it's station to station, it's positional golf. You can't overpower this course with distance. You can't overpower it with power. You need to be kind of a complete golfer, not only staying semi-accurate off the tee, even when you're clubbing down, but also putting yourself in good position to use good iron play to find these tiny greens, some of the smallest greens. I believe Ron had as the second smallest greens on tour as far as ranked. Obviously, no elevation here. We're right next to the coast. We talked about it's a Pete Dye. The overseeding does make a difference, but we've seen it for a few years now. We understand how this course plays. The big difference from year to year is the rough. This was traditionally like a second cut all the way out. You've played at your local muni where there's like, hey, that's the rough, and it's like an inch tall. It's just they don't mow it the same as the fairway. It's basically an extended fairway, second cut type thing. That's what we've had here in the past. This is going to be jacked up to about 2.5 inches, which is not crazy rough, but it does make a big difference compared to years past. Like, you're not going to get that. That was the biggest thing about here. Is like, you're not going to get yourself in huge trouble here because the rough was short. And as long as you weren't behind a huge cypress tree or something, you could take some pretty decent shots as long as you weren't way out of position, in the rough on the wrong side of the fairway. That is probably going to change a little bit. I'm going to put a higher kind of premium on accuracy off the tee, just in general. Not so much even just driving, but accuracy off the tee when they're clubbing down, guys who are able to just find positions, because it is going to change a little bit. It's not... you're not playing in 4-inch Kikuya that's going to grab a club and you're going to break a wrist and snap a club, but it's still 2.5 inches compared to the under 1-inch rough that they usually had will make a difference. So while it's still a second shot course with these tiny greens, you're going to need to find guys who have had good greens and regulations on spots like this that have smallish greens. It really, really does kind of lead me towards putting a lot heavier emphasis on, the accuracy off the tee here with the longer rough that they're going to be growing up this year. So, other than that, I don't have a ton to say that you didn't already say. Obviously, it's kind of like a Parkland to start. It ends up being a coastal course eventually, and then you have some shots over the water. That's the other thing about accuracy too. It's like, oh, don't go in this 2.5-inch rough. Also, don't hit it in the bay. Like, you're going to have to be semi-accurate on a couple holes. There's some water here too, and I know one of them, one of them's going to be an iron shot into a fairly easy par 3. It's not horrible, but at the same time, you see guys find the water here. So accuracy off the tee, good greens and regulations on courses with small greens like this, shorter courses. And yeah, it's not going to be driving distance at all here because, like you said, you can't overpower this course. You do have to, what do we call it? Another thinking man's course for sure.
Yeah. So that does matter, I think, even more. I think you did a good job laying that out and explaining why that matters. And I think those are some of the skill sets we need. It's very different. It cannot be much more different in terms of what happened, what they were playing last week at Augusta and then coming here in terms of the undulation, the elevation changes, the ability to just kind of rip it. And then, you mentioned you need to be able to scround the greens because the greens are smaller, but the greens are smaller and you typically see like it's easier to gain around the greens here because the chipping is a little bit easier as well. So, it matters, but I would be careful in how you weigh it this week. Recommend folks go over to BetSperts Golf. Again, you can get a monthly sub for $19.99, super cheap. Play around, you get access to everything on the site, all the tools, all the articles, all the picks. Subscriber Discord. We do a Wednesday office hours where we, you can pick our brains, DFS, bets, all that stuff. But the customizable stat database where you can build models and dig into playing around with sample sizes. You can just pull up Pete Dye course histories, strokes gained Pete Dye, and get a feel for, who's fared well on. Some of these courses are very similar. Like outside of really like Whistling Straits, a lot of the Pete Dye stuff I think is sticky in terms of, how those layouts go. So you can kind of look at that. And again, all on betspertsgolf.com. We'll start at the top of the board. Andy, your boy Rory has mental health break. He's dealing with some needs a little bit of time off. I think maybe yeah, you mentioned guys have been playing a lot of golf. So Scotty is here, Rahm is here, and kind of when Rory left, Cantley has kind of pushed himself into that new big three in terms of the betting board here. Cantley opened up very short, skill set, course fit, makes a ton of sense. Played well last week. So we'll kind of tackle that as the big three. Where basically,
can you imagine if he putted? Like you say, played well, and I almost push back on that. I agree though. He did play well.
Yeah, tee to green.
If you don't count it, like his putting probably cost him what, like $500,000. Like he should have been so far up the leaderboard. The putts were 1-2 balls off the hole at points where it's like you just had a read on that from somebody else. How did you miss it that poorly? Like his putting really struggled for some reason last week, and traditionally pretty pure green. So that was a little bit of a weird bugaboo with him. But you're right. Other than that, he was kind of on one tee to green.
Yeah. Scotty too. I mean, Scotty and Cantley, like if they putted well, are right there in the mix with Rahm at the end. Like Scotty going into Sunday or into round 4 was the leader in strokes gained tee to green and was like 20th. He just could not make a single putt. As someone who had backed Scotty at a pretty short number, we watched a lot of those and it was pretty frustrating. So, any interest in the top of the board? I mean, like I said, like Cantley was a guy I had kind of earmarked pre-tournament. Thought maybe if we got close to a 20, but we're dealing with 9s, 11s, 12s now. Any thoughts on going to the top of the board here?
No, just, like I said, with the course playing in a spot where it's going to mitigate some of that, the distance, the really, really strong tee to green play that we saw last week. I am going to avoid the top 3. I'm not going to take someone under 10 in a full field. Essentially, this is bigger than it normally is too. This is over 135. There's quite a big field here. And, we've seen people further down the board win this. I know it's not the same with all these top players, but those guys were down the board, compared to a bad field. So, I'm not going to be looking at somebody like, CT Pan. Although I did just pull up the tool on the site. I went to, hey, show me greens and regulation percentage last 6 months for small greens only, and CT Pan was number 1. He has been kind of a green finder on that. I'll expand that out to the last 12 months. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler plays really well. Like you're gonna have some of these guys that are good greens finders, even when they are small. But yeah, for my money, I just can't take somebody at under 10-1 here. It's such a small or such a large field at a course that will help kind of bring the pack together. If we do see some wind, scoring, like you said, could be down in the, 10 to 13 under range. If the wind stays away, this course could get beat up a little. There's even missing a par 5. There's a lot of scoring opportunities. You could be up towards 18, 19, I suppose. But I wonder about with the longer rough and maybe if the wind kicks up, it might be a nice little jumbled leaderboard between 8 and 10 under heading into the final round. So I'm not interested in some of the guys that are 9-1.
And that's what we had last year. We had Cantley and Spieth that made the playoff at 13, but there were like 9 guys at -12, like right behind them. So there was a pretty jumbled leaderboard. So would not be surprised if we come back to that. There's, like I mentioned, the tier gap, and then you have the next group: Morikawa, Cam Young, Spieth, the defending champ. Spieth's been playing a lot of golf. I think this is 9 out of 11 weeks. Hovland back in there, Xander, Finau, M, Homa, JT, and that's pretty much consensus short of 30 and shorter. A pretty big tier there. Obviously some pretty talented names. This is why I have trouble firing at the top, because while I do think that Rahm and Scotty are the best in the world right now and have separated themselves, really hard to take shots at them when they're like 3 to 4x the number of some of these other guys that I don't think are 3 to 4 times worse of the players. So has anyone jumped out to you in this field?
Yeah, I mean, you can still get a Cam Young over 20. Just watching him play, just kind of, I don't know, it took some balls to play that well against a field like that in an event like that. And I mean, he had some spots where he made some runs. It's like this guy's going to be in the mix. What are we even doing here? I know he's a distance guy, and
second here last year.
I know, and it's not his entire game. Like that did play well last week on some of the par fives, where even some of the shorter fours, where he's able to, just outdistance people. But his entire game looked good enough last week that I'm interested in him at like 21. So I do have a Cam Young ticket. That was my first shot up on the board. He's under 20, like 18-1 right now at Bet Online. I'm able to get, I don't know what you're seeing the best prices, but I'm able to get a 21.55 at Chris. I wanted your opinion on Morikawa. He's been bet down at some places. It's kind of like the start of your second tier at a lot of books after the top three guys that we just talked about. Opinions on what you saw last week heading into this event where, strong irons, maybe, he's a smart enough golfer, positional golf. He's not going to have to worry about effing up a big lag putt because the greens just aren't big enough for that sort of thing. He's good enough around the green. Like, are you interested in somebody like him around 20?
Yeah. It's a guy that this feels like a spot where Morikawa will, win at some point. Is not really, I think 7th 2 years ago here, 26th last year, 64th in that June one that we talked about. Like, yes, not at the number. Again, another guy that I would have liked to have been a little bit longer, but I understand why he opened where he did. To be honest, I kind of like Cam Young a little bit more, which you wouldn't think that's the fit here. A couple of things too. Paul Tesori, his new caddy, I think we've seen instant gains.
Made a huge difference right off the bat.
And this is a Webb Simpson course, right? Like he's coming off of Webb's bag and going on to Cam Young's bag. And we've seen the gains instantly at both match play. And then last week, again, I think the Masters is always a place where in form or solid Cam Young is gonna thrive, right? He can absolutely mash the ball. He can get white hot with the putter. We saw that a little bit. Basically, outside of the bad weather events, like Cam Young was at the top of the board and was mashing last week. So again, surprised that Cam Young finished second here last year. Again, it was in a massive group of 8 to 10 guys that did so, but this doesn't feel like a place that we would naturally back Cam Young. So that shows like he's already had some success. Now he has Paul Tesori on the bag. I like that quite a bit for Cam Young. I'd like the number to be a little bit longer, but in terms of kind of where that next group is, I think he's pretty interesting. My first click here in this spot was Xander. I got Xander at 29 to open. You could still find 25s, basically the best number on Xander. Like we've talked about it a few times earlier this season. We don't always think of him as like an elite iron player, but I think he deserves more credit than he gets. He's way up year over year on approach. He's up 0.32 strokes per round on approach this season versus last year, which is his best year of his career. So he's, on pace to set career best marks. If you look at greens and reg from 150 to 200, which is, I think Ronson's like 58% of the strokes here at this pace. He is first on tour in greens and reg from that distance over the past 12 months. Liked what we saw last week, 5th in approach, 4th tee to green, 13 to 14 fairways on Sunday, which is nice. So like, we had a little bit of a hiccup at Riv and Bay Hill with Xander off the tee, but he's kind of found that, I think, last week at Augusta. So, yeah, I mean, early 29s that we fired on Monday are gone, but 25 is still very much a play for me on Xander. So he's probably my favorite in that range, considering the price. But I'm kind of with you on the Cam Young play. I wouldn't hesitate to fire if you haven't.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, kind of in that position or in that section of the betting. It's just been Cam Young for me. I did look around a little at, like I said, Morikawa. I thought, I don't know what to do with Sung J M. I think he should be a little longer. I think Xander, Sung J, Spieth, Finau, probably priced where they should be. Fitzpatrick, although he played well last week, there's rumors about an injury.
Yeah.
Kind of the next guy that caught my eye was Hovland, just based on how he played last week. And, the main knock at him always was around the green sort of stuff, chipping, scrambling. That it looked good last week. Like, I don't know if he's just finally found time to really work on it with someone or someone who's taught him how to, improve those things that he struggled with. But now he's heading to a course where it matters even less. It's one of those things where, why is around the green easier here? Because the greens are tiny. If you miss the green, you know, a lot of times you're in a spot where you would have been on the green at a different course.
Yeah.
Like you're not chipping, you know, 80 yards. You're not chipping up a damn hill. It's just a little pitch. It's a little bump and run. Like there are some easy around the green shots here. And if he plays the rest of his game, tee to green like he did last week, he's interesting. I don't know what are you seeing best price on him?
Best on Hovland is Chris at 30 and change. Yeah. Bet online is a 30 as well. I mean, he's 16 on Bet Rivers. So yeah,
that was half the reason too. I thought he should be in that 25 range with a lot of the guys I just listed. So at 30, I mean, unless you can talk me out of it right now, I'm going to bet that as well.
No, so we saw it 2 years ago at Stu Cink when Stu Cink won here on Sunday. I don't know that he took a wedge out of the bag around the green all Sunday because you have some short runoffs. Yeah. He basically just ran the putter up there all weekend. So there's a chance, like you said, I think around the green matters here, but to your point, it's easier to gain around the green because again, you have smaller greens. It's very flat. So it's, even though like, that's why I think Morikawa and Hovland can be in play here because that's kind of their bugaboo. It's kind of the weakness of their game is the around the green stuff. And it's just easier to kind of hide that here because of the way the course is set up. So yeah, no problem with those guys as well. I didn't pull on Max. So Homa, Finau, JT are just probably should never really be out there at 30. There are 33s on JT. It's really hard for me not to click that. I haven't, again, missed the cut. We know the weather was an issue. Any thoughts? Did you consider JT at all this week? Because again, like just think historically, long form ball striking, tee to green, that's Justin Thomas.
Yeah, I don't think there's a guy that actually fits this course better than Justin Thomas, who has like the composite stats. Like I don't know. He played bad last week. Such is life. Like he's bounced back after big tournaments in the past. Oh, Ron showed that a stat. Like, yeah, I bet him at 30. That was by far my first click.
Okay.
Like you could find some 33s out there if you're really on it. I got 30 and change. So that was I'm always been a JT guy. I'm not really worried about last week. He's played well at events like this. He's played well in courses like this, and it just fits him. Like he is going to be finding that positional golf. He is going to put himself in good spots, and yeah, I think he competes here. He should be. And he's another one like Hovland. You should take Hovland and Thomas and flip flop him with like Sungjae and Tony. I think at this event, they shouldn't be longer. So I think it's more of a price play for me, but it's another guy I like, and I will continue to bet as well.
Yeah, don't hate that at all. 8th year in the 2020 version, didn't play in 21, and then 35th here last year. No. So at least he's been here, and that helps a little bit too. Shane Lowry is going to pop if you run any sort of Pete Dye, strokes gained Pete Dye. He's had some really nice finishes, including here. He got moved quite a bit, and there were some 40s. He's down to high 20s now at some spots. Another guy that I think historically is going to play really well here and feels like a Pete Dye guy is Tom Kim, who I got at 50. We're looking at, there's some 40s out there now on Tom Kim. Again, just the positional golf stuff. When you think about, where he's kind of had some success here early, it's been on spots like this at TBC Summerlin, Sedgefield, where he got his 2 wins, like places that, kind of mitigate distance off the tee, that profile on accuracy, and having really good wedge play. And that's kind of where we're at. I think a really nice debut at the Masters for Tom Kim, which is surprising. T16, 7th in both greens and reg, 7th in driving accuracy on the week. That's where he's been like long-term over looking at like good drive percentage and fairways gained. So that kind of just fits Tom Kim. And we know just going station to station is kind of what he does as well. So yeah, 50s on Kim early. Again, got to get in the Discord early on Monday morning. We're firing at that. Again, you can play with the stats database ahead of time and get some, kind of focus in on who you're looking for, put some numbers out there in your mind, think about, hey, where are these guys open at, and get some of the best numbers because some of those have closed and moved quickly. Im is another example of that. As you mentioned, he's pretty short now, but like Im was out there at 37, 35 for quite a while early Monday morning. So I get why that there's taken some hits there. But yeah, Tom Kim to me I just feel like is always going to be a Pete Dye guy. So I'm in on that this week, considering that he played better than I thought he would last week.
Yeah, I was close. I didn't get the price I wanted, so I did avoid him as well. I think at that point, I said I'm probably going to have 2 or 3 guys in this 20 to 30 range. Like, who else do I need? They need to be like 50, 60, 70, somewhere in that range. I probably only have one other guy in my card, honestly, and it's a little further down. Did you fire on anything? And also, are we doing a line of demarcation like we did last week, where it's like, hey, if you're this long, I'm ignoring you. We do this some weeks, and I think there are tournaments where, we probably said it the week that Kitayama won, and probably looked stupid, but I think there's a definite like, hey, we're at an elevated event, and even though we said some of the particulars of this course will mitigate the absolute, cream of the cream here, it's still maybe only like 40 guys that can win this. Now, I don't know how far, maybe fewer, but I don't know how far you went down before you started to draw the line and saying like, hey, here's a guy I like, but he's a positional bet. I can't bet, Andrew Putnam to win this thing kind of stuff.
I got a handful of those guys, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it, to your point, because I just don't think it's the same story with the elevated event stuff. Like, you don't just have to have, like you said, there's 40 guys. 1 or 2 of them are just going to have a good week. And it's not like they can't play positional golf. It's not like Scotty is just good at bombing it down, and out driving everyone. So there is, in terms of how I've approached the board, there are guys that I think are great long shots that I will just attack in the finishing position market instead of just knowing that I'm burning money in the outrights. So I don't know what the line is. So I'll tell you again, this is another case. Monday morning bets. Russell Henley opened at 75 to 1. That's a terrible number. It's a terrible number for this course anyway. Separate last week. This is just like Russell Henley is first in driving accuracy, first in fairways gained, first in good drive percentage over the last 50 rounds in this field and on tour. He painted fairways. He led driving accuracy at the Masters last week. This is just kind of his MO. He's a Southeast guy from Georgia. This is just the Russell Henley type of course. We had a little bit of a hiccup for a couple of weeks there. Actually, you look back, I pulled this morning. I was looking at it. He lost strokes on approach in 3 straight starts: Phoenix, Riv, Bay Hill. You have to go back to June of 2017 for 3 straight events where Russell Henley lost strokes on approach. He just doesn't do it. It's just kind of his game, paints fairways and gains on approach. Now, the around the green stuff, putting can get kind of dicey at times, but played great last week. We know he finished top 4, surprised everyone, but played really well. It was great, on and around the green. So we've seen some gains back to the standard approach the last couple of weeks for Henley. 3 straight T19s or better, gained on approach in all 3. Just coming in with, I think, some confidence after last week. And again, this is a spot that fits him way better than Augusta does. So it's now 45 to 1. Can't pay the bills with the CLV there, but you feel pretty good about being on the right side of the number. Any interest on Henley? Again, he's down at 40 in some spots. Again, it's short, but
I liked Henley. Again, it was another one where I probably just did miss the price on the best, best price I can get right now is not where I need to be. You can find a 50. I guess it's not the worst bet in the world. He is probably more of a positional, hey, Russell Henley top 20, because he's going to be priced like, Thigala, who I almost bet as well. But no, I didn't get to anyone until we got down to the 70s. And I did add one more name. 70 most places, I think. I'm not looking at the legals. I'll let you take a swing at it. Finished decent here last year. Played pretty good golf last weekend. Not enough to really get his name in the mix, but has, through the course of the swing season and into last summer, has a handful of top 5s and just doesn't get any love from Andy ever.
No love from Andy ever.
And
Justin Rose?
If you had to guess, if you didn't know any golfers and you'd never seen his face and you had to guess what sport he was in, you might guess bum fighting.
Bum fighting.
Yes, like a homeless person fighting another homeless person for a prize. I'll say he's European.
Seamus Power.
I thought the bum fighting was going to give it. It's Tommy Fleetwood.
Tommy Fleetwood. That's a
Tommy
good,
Fleetwood. Yeah,
yeah.
He's the
like he could have been
most,
in.
The most
Yeah.
homeless looking person for sure. It looks like Frank from Shameless half the time. So
yeah.
It's top 10 here last year, top 5 at the Valspar. I don't know how much you want to put into the CJ Cup, but I mean, of all the swing season, events, the CJ Cup had some. I mean, Rory McIlroy won the CJ Cup. John Rahm played. Sam Burns. There was, Hatton, Day, Fitzpatrick. The CJ Cup is it's swing season. I think people just like Congaree. Like it's just a really good course. I'm not sure if the purse was that big or what drew that kind of field. Thinking back to it now, but he played really well at the CJ Cup. He's played well at a few other events. He top 5 the Open last summer after finishing nice, and it was fourth at the Scotland Double there. He played well in majors last year overall. Like
he did.
PGA was a top 5.
Yeah.
And like I said, he has played well here traditionally. And when I ran a quick model, I did it on the site. I went greens and regulation on small greens, Pete Dye tracks, like I just talked about. I went heavy on approach, heavy on total driving, proximity out of the rough, scrambling, and just putting on POA Triv. And he came out to number 1 with a bullet. So he is my top ranked modeled golfer this week. And I felt obligated to, I was already looking at him. Like when he popped at the top, it's like, all right. Like I literally just bet him right now. 75-1 bet online, or excuse me, at Chris. I put him in 75.50 actually. So longer price. I think he should be closer to 50. That'll probably complete the card for me. A little bit of an eclectic card here, but I like the guys I have, I think.
Yeah, the domestics, it looks like 65 on DraftKings, 66 on PointsBet or Rivers. If you're looking to back Fleetwood, the best number right now, offshore. Circa's got an 80. And then, Andy mentioned the Chris 75. So, yeah, don't hate that at all. 10th year last year.
Hopefully the golfers never hear this. I compared a golfer to like a homeless person and Tom Hanks character at this point. So just if you know a golfer, don't send him this, please.
Yeah.
But no, that's a nice price, I think, for a guy like you said. He played well here last year. Obviously, the field was not the same, but I liked some of the things I saw last weekend at Augusta. He gained strokes in the field technically. I think he was just barely above the break-even line, but it's a course that actually plays to his strengths here. So looking at Tommy to play well.
Yep, I like that. There's a bunch of guys when you just kind of look down the board, it feels like hey, this is a reminder it's an elevated event. Guys that we like to bet, that we've bet often, they're down here at triple digits. It's just a little bit harder to justify swinging an outright bet on. And they are, I think that's kind of the line of demarcation to your point, is that Fleetwood, Henley, Tom Kim spot for me in terms of actually, betting outright winners. So don't hate that at all. I don't feel like it's a great spot for some of the guys above it. You could sell me on some Corey Connors flop lag
He's
after
close, yes.
Yeah. The reason I didn't pull on Corey Connors is I got friend of the show, Travis Fulton, in my head. He thinks Corey Connors has the yips on his around the green stuff. And we saw it. He was, he chipped a couple of, fat chips into the water and missed the cut there on Friday afternoon. And it does matter here a little bit, even though he's going to be, great in terms of positional stuff, the approach game, he's out there a little bit longer, some, 60s and stuff on Connors. Like Connors going to win twice in 3 weeks. Probably not. And that's another reason enough, just narrative wise to kind of stay off of him. So I thought Hatton might be on your card. He makes sense here.
Close.
Yeah.
I saw Angry Hatton come back, kind of scared me off him.
Well, he hates Augusta.
He does just hate that place. He hates a lot of course. He gets angry, and it gets me a little scared off him, though. Yeah. There was a lot of guys that was close on. Corey, Hatton, like you said. God, who I looked at? Another one for like positional betting. Who's like, I can't justify betting this guy to win, and he can get a little wild with the driver, I think. But Sam Ryder,
He's kind of a nice fit here.
Yeah.
If you want to really go down the board or look for, and I know we have a DFS show tomorrow, and there's people who do DFS much better than me, but Luke Donald, it's like 6,400, still kind of fits the course. Like he's not a bad shout too if you want a guy with still has a pretty decent approach game.
Wild course history here, like insane.
Don't look at it at all.
I can't believe he's never won. I mean, I'm gonna find it because it's nuts. Okay, so Luke Donald, I'm gonna start in we're going back 2009. Second, third, second, 37th, third, second, 15th, second. Like, how do you have 5 seconds in that time in like a decade? A couple other thirds and just never close the deal.
So tough. Close to firing the cannon. Not quite though.
No.
Good. Fair play, Luke Donald. Yeah, I was close. Again, maybe positional bet sort of stuff. If you, again, way down the board. If you want to get crazy on some top 40s or DFS, Mark Hubbard isn't a bad fit here. There's some deep shots. Chesson Hadley.
Yeah.
Kind of again, decent approach game, decent out of the rough. Good proximity out of the rough. Might play well here. And then, Hatton was pretty high for me. Hatton was probably the first guy off the card. I was close. I would have liked a little better price for him. But, if you look at the DFS prices compared to the outright betting, he's in the Fleetwood range, but his outright betting price is way lower, like 40, 45. So.
It'll be a chalky DFS play.
I wanted, he will for sure. It's such a shitty price for DFS. Like he's going to be highly owned, but I wanted 50 on him, so not quite there with Hatton.
Yeah, I pulled on Tom Kim instead, so it's kind of the two guys in that same.
Congratulations to Ricky's brother. Now that we avoided him.
Yeah. I mean, Ricky profiles pretty well here as well.
Oh no, I meant Ricky Hatton.
Oh, Ricky Hatton. Okay,
the boxer. They're related. They're either brothers or cousins. You can go look it up. You can look. It's worth a Google. Okay. No, Ricky. I never know what to do with Ricky.
No,
just happy he didn't play last week.
There's a bunch of guys that kind of fit that mold that you're talking about in terms of maybe not getting outright money, but finishing position bets in terms of the skill set fit or course history and stuff like that. I think the Postman, as you mentioned, he was like 110 in the outright market to start on Monday morning. It's like 66 everywhere now or so. So like people crushed the Poston number. Again, still just a little bit long for me. I think there's something on a top 20, prefer probably even a top 40 at plus money, a little bit safer, but he makes sense. Straka is
your signal
the country.
Was going to went to shit, Ryan. I don't know if the kids turned on the
a
PS5
brand new router,
or what,
and I'm gonna.
Playing.
I got a brand new router, and
that's a whole different thing.
I'm gonna set it on fire. Yeah,
it was going pretty good for a while there.
I don't know.
You just move out of Chicago.
Tough scene. Ben Martin is on the list. Yeah.
Oh God, I've seen him pop up a few times.
Yeah. Mac Hughes is another one too. Mac Hughes played pretty well last week.
Yeah. The case for betting some of those long shots too is if you have Bet365 or you're Nick Palfrey here and you live in the UK and you have all these UK books or they're offering really nice each way placement prices. Like if you bet somebody like that at 300 to 1 here, it's an each way bet. Like you're certainly looking to just sneak that guy into the placing. And that's where, we do it slightly differently. We usually just avoid the outright and end up putting some of those guys in top 40, top 20, top 10 kind of bets. So I agree with you, Mac Hughes. Ben Martin's a name I've seen all over golf Twitter this week already. A lot of people have put him on a card at a big price as well. And again, a lot of it has the EW following the price, like 8 places as well. So that's kind of the way to approach somebody like him. I like him quite a bit here. With the rudimentary model I just made, he was ranked 23rd. Yeah, little weak in the scrambling, but should I have him above Shane Lowry at this point? Which was fun.
Trying to think of where. So if I go further out, he's 17th in the last 50 rounds. And to your point, it's the strokes gained, short game that's kind of holding him down. But got to find fairways. The approach has been really good. Is he winning this event? Man, I would be really, really surprised. But top 20, again, you're going to get a nice plus number on a top 40 even. That's just typically how I build cards more frequently than firing off those guys, especially in this new, I think it's a new game too. This designated event, full field stuff or, picking outright winners. I think you have to take more shots closer to the top of the board. We'd love to spend more time in the 30 to 60 range and try to look for guys that are closer to that number and are mispriced. It's just really harder to justify the super bombs, the 3-digit bombs in a field like this. Like, I like
one. Say I want to do a kitschy bullshit segment. Then one long bomb. If you had to bet one, he has to be triple digits. Fuck, it has to be better than 150. You have to place a bet. It can be small. Like we're putting $10 in this guy.
Gosh, you're probably
mine's Canadian for sure.
Nick Taylor?
No, it's probably Hughes, like you said.
Okay, Hughes. Yeah, Hughes, Svensson, Taylor are all kind of. I think are all viable. I think they all fit that mold. Matt Hughes. Yeah, I had Canadian friend of the show Jeff Feinberg messaging me Monday morning, selling me a bill of goods on Matt Hughes. 250 is still out there on DraftKings. It's a pretty big number. Aaron Rye is another guy that just is going to find a ton of fairways and put himself in good spots. Actually been trending on approach, but I would go just based off of, like you said, the modeling. It's Ben Martin for me. Just missing the cut is Sepp Straka, and just missing the cut there as well is Gary Woodland, who's been playing really good golf, played terrific golf. Although you can find that he's 152 on Chris, which is significantly shorter than anywhere else out there. Less than driver has been pretty good for Gary in his career. Putted well last week is not something that Gary's can say much over the last 12 months. So, Woodland's kind of in that mix. Yeah, a lot of guys that are going to be in the card for finishing position bets at plus money that I like this week that are, better fits for the course than guys that are significantly better more times than not than them in a typical given week. But again, it's not what Pete Dye wants or tries to do. And we get more of these guys that kind of profile and pop here more times than not.
Yeah. Small bet. I just put a small bet on Mac Hughes.
There you go.
Like if I said it out loud, I feel like I'm going to feel like such an asshole. And he's like in the mix on Sunday and I can't at least work my way out, wiggle my way out of it a little. So 200 to 1 at Bet Online just now. So small bet on Mac Hughes to close up the card for me. And we're on to matchups.
Love it. Good stuff as always. Anything for the folks before we close up shop?
No, like Ryan said, you can, you want to try out the new tool. Like I said, I just made a model. It's crazy how I've even played with it enough to understand how many different menus there are. But you go under a subcategory or something. And I mean, there's putting ranges. Like how is this guy putting 3 to 5 feet? How's this guy putting 25 feet plus? You go to fairway approach accuracy. You can look at all the buckets on proximity from 50 to 75 all the way up 200 plus. The off the tee stuff. There's all kinds of stats that I feel like I need Ron to write a better like guide for this. But good drive percentage, distance from the edge of the fairway rank, carry distance, total distance, efficiency. Like you can get really into the weeds, and it's one of those things too where you don't have to like use these stats, build a model, and say these are my top 10 guys I'm betting it. It's a really nice way to take a bunch of granular stats like that you think might play and see, are there some guys further down the board or some guys that didn't, haven't caught my eye yet that are constantly coming up when I'm looking at some of these deeper granular stats over a longer sample size. And I think some of those guys, then you can do a deeper dive in on them and start to see what you can do with them. So, and I think honestly, that's how Mackenzie Hughes has ended up in my mouth, a couple times. Like I've been speaking of him a little bit this week already. Like I didn't think the words Mackenzie Hughes to win an elevated event would come out of my mouth at all.
Yeah, we didn't think Kurt Kitayama would either. So I don't hate it this week. We know he can get super hot with the putter. So if he's going to be stroking it like he did last week. I think 5th in approach last week, like something crazy, especially like when you eliminate the couple live guys that had good weeks, maybe 5th in this field and approach, which is, again, short term. It's one event, but you'd rather have that form than him missing the cut and spraying it all over the place too. So, again, there's a lot of different ways to bet this beautiful game, and the tool helps you, kind of narrow that down. And, when you're looking at a full field of 132 guys, it's hard to find reasons to cross guys off, and the tool can help you do that. So definitely check it out. Subscribe to the newsletter that Andy writes out. He's going to give you a free winner every week with his matchup winner.
Almost. I went with a top senior last week. Phil kind of ruined my life. Two of my 5 losses, or the 5 bets, 3 and 3 and 2, and 2 of them are bets against Phil. So I should have just avoided Phil altogether. We'd be fine. I had a Zalatoris bet that got wiped off, which was awful nice. Seeing how it turned out, he was massively injured, and that might have not been a great bet. But if you check out if you're listening to this in the podcast, check out the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out the whatever show notes too. We'll have a link and a special deal for you if you want to try, subscribing. We'll have a special deal to try it out for a week, a month, whatever you want. We'll give you a percentage off with the promo code. Check that out in the show notes. Thanks for joining us. If you watch this on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. If you watch this on a podcast, then you didn't watch it at all. You listened. Rate, subscribe, review, all that stuff. Help us out. Appreciate it. If you have any other questions, you can hit us up on Twitter at AndyMSFW, at RY Noonan on Twitter, at PGA Splits 101. If you want to bug Ron, at Betspurts Golf. BetspurtsGolf.com has free articles every week, including Ron's great preview. Love you to check that out. And again, there's also free channels on the Discord. You can just tag us in there if you have some questions, and we'll try to get to them as soon as we can.
Love it. Let's get a winner this week, Andy. It's you're going to want to be in there on Wednesday afternoon. We're going to handle our office hours for our subscribers in the Discord. Pick our brain with anything. Share the show, because winning with friends is fun. You're not competing. This is not DFS. You're not playing with your boys. Share the betting show.
Once you get your bets in, it doesn't matter if the market moves. Let your friends bet the worst numbers. So, all right, cool. Again, appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week. And if you are in the Discord, we'll catch you at 4 p.m. Eastern for office hours. We'll do another live Q&A in there. Fire as many questions as you can, and we'll try to get to them all.
We'll do it live.